time I knew what happiness was, let the memory live again. Every street lamp seems to beat a fatalistic horn.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Zapata. I'm here from the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. I am a research coordinator and a research analyst, and today I'm also the continuing education officer. So a little quick note on paperwork. This is your statement of attendance. Be sure to fill it out completely if you're seeking any type of CEs, or even if you're seeking our free certificate of attendance. So you want a certificate from us, please fill this out completely and turn it into the front desk after the conference. Also, this is your participant profile. Filling this out allows us to have grants from the government to allow us to have these free conferences at a low cost. So if you can fill this out as much as you wish to, as far as all the pertinent information, that would be most appreciative, so we can continue to bring these conferences to other parts of the area in South Texas. And also, there.
Back of your packet.
Yeah, it's in there. It's in the folder.
Back, yes. Yes, that purple folder. Hold it up.
There you go. It's in the folder.
Thank you, Joy.
And also, at the end of the conference, please fill out the conference evaluation sheet, front and back. Also, return it to the front after the conference has concluded. And one more thing, after the conference is concluded, probably around anywhere from 3 to 4 days, you will be receiving an email from SurveyMonkey asking you to complete a quick online survey. And then you will receive your certificates via email. So if you have any questions about continuing education credits, please see me at the front, and I will be sure to help you out. So,
Did everyone get a packet? Does everyone have a purple folder? If you do not, if you can just raise your hand, and Maxine will bring you one. Did you get a packet? He does not.
Come in. In fact, anyone who hasn't stopped by our registration table, please make sure that you do, so that we can give you a packet and make sure that we have your registration. Deidre.
If we have two certifications on here, do we need to talk two forms, or can we just circle the two?
no, negative. You just fill out, you just check on the bottom which two you want. Yes, she wants to know if you can, you have to fill out two separate forms for two separate continuing education credits, and the answer is no. Just go ahead and check which two different credits from different institutional credits you want at the bottom. Any other CEU questions at this moment? Excellent.
And now you know what he looks like in case you have questions on CEUs throughout the day. If you didn't hear Maxine, she wanted to remind everybody to, whether you need credits today or not, if you're just attending for the education, we still need you to register so that we have a good count of how many people attended today and how many people in Victoria or the surrounding counties attended. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our next speaker. Oh, and Rita has a quick announcement on Robert.
Oh, yes. It's Robert. I think he's putting out flowers.
Robert brought it to my attention. It is not Mailer. That is my country little, it's Malaire. Is that correct? So if you will please call him not Mr. Mailer today, it's Mr. Malaire. He said my little country accent made it just Malaire. So if y'all do not know Robert, he loves to give everyone a hard time, such as myself, so I do appreciate that.
Yeah, you can call him Robert. Okay, our next topic is Neurobics, and it's given by Meredith Patterson. Meredith is a corporate registered nurse with All Care Assisted Living. She has over 25 years of neuroscience experience in a number of clinical settings, including critical care, head injury trauma and rehabilitation, elder and dementia care. In the past 10 years, Meredith has spoken at Scott and White Hospital and the University of Texas Health Science Center. She presents on topics such as preventative lifestyle practice, including diet, exercise, mental activity, socialization, and stress management. Meredith is certified as a rehabilitative registered nurse. And as Larissa had mentioned before, she teams up with Hospice of South Texas to give a monthly education, and most of the time it's 1 hour and 1 hour of credit. So if you need more information, we can give you that too, but we have a packet in your bag. So please welcome our next speaker, who will be presenting on Neurobics, Meredith Patterson.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me on this mic? This okay? All right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today. It's really exciting to have a symposium in Victoria. I find that people in Victoria are very hungry for information about dementia. They're very hungry for information about the brain and how it works. And I'll tell you what, I love to talk about the brain and how it works. So get a sip of your coffee, turn off your cell phones, and let me get your attention because we're going to do some brain exercise. And this is one in a series of topics that I teach about brain health. This particular topic is called Neurobics. So let's get started. So what the heck is this thing we call Neurobics? Well, I wish that I had coined this term, but it's actually from a book, a very simple book that you can order for a few dollars off of Amazon. And it's called Keep Your Brain Alive by Dr. Lawrence Katz. And he was the one that kind of came up with this notion of exercise for the brain, if you will. And we're going to show you examples this morning of how all of that works according to Dr. Katz. The main key to the book is that you want to stimulate the brain and get the brain to operate in ways in which it is not accustomed. That is, to get it outside of its comfort zone. So let's talk a little bit just about memory right now. And I apologize, some of your slides, you're looking at them going, she doesn't have this in the handout. Don't worry about the handout. Forget the handout. You can look at that later. I want to just kind of give you a little key concepts about memory and how it works. So I'm looking around the room and I see maybe a couple of people who might be over age 40 and above. And so for those of you who know who you are, you might recognize this thing about forgetting. Or maybe it's starting to trouble you a little bit. It seems like we forget stuff all the time. I don't have dementia. I just can't remember stuff anymore. And this is so common an experience that we have a familiar slang experience for it, don't we? We call it a senior moment, that hilarious and just terrifying moment, a senior moment. And it happens well before you qualify for the discount at Dairy Queen. So, forgetting. Why do we even forget? Why does Mother Nature do this to us? Well, in part, forgetting is very helpful for all of us. Forgetting is part of being human. Just imagine what it would be like if you remembered every single thing that happened to you every day of your life. And there are a few people on the planet that have that ability, and it's not a nice experience for them. It might be just the function of keeping us from being swamped with so much useless information, right? So forgetting is very human. Now, what age do you think it is where memory peaks? Where is our memory at its best, and then we kind of start that slow descent? Anybody guess?
30,
50, 35, mid-20s. Boy, that's all over the map today. She's been in my class. She's right. It's 30. Right at 30. So it's fairly young. What makes us forget? Well, all kinds of stuff. We're so distracted for one thing. It's not like you just drive your car or you just answer the phone. We're doing this horrible multitasking that seems so popular and it's supposed to make us so productive. We have a million distractions. It might be that we just don't store our information properly. It's called encoding. When you learn something, how do you hang on to it if you want to? Maybe you need to teach yourself how to store information, and I actually have a class on techniques like that. Stress, of course, does stress do a number on the brain? Oh yeah, she's going, yeah, it sure does. And many other reasons. So memory works in stages. So here we all are, we're in Victoria, we had some Starbucks coffee, we're seated with some very nice people, air conditioning feels about right. We're having this whole experience this morning. And here we are on the beach. It was a windy day, the kids were young, I could feel the sand between my toes and so on. We are just taking in that kind of sensory experience. Second phase, short-term memory. This is what I call the brain scratch pad, and it's known in neuroscience terms as working memory. Our short-term memory where we can store something for just a little bit of time if we want to. So if I tell you, okay, remember my phone number, it's 609-7778, and you go, Betty goes, 609-7778, 609-7778, 609-7778, and you're going to hang on to it for a while, until you go and write it down. So you've got that little short-term memory. It's easily discarded, and working memory is something in the nature of 4 to 7 digits, typically for most people. That's why our phone numbers are the length that they are. And then finally, the last stage of memory is long-term storage. This is the biggest part of memory. This is where memory goes, where we want to hold on to it for months and years and maybe for a lifetime. Now, it's not like you have a little compartment in your brain where all the memories live. And if that compartment is destroyed, voila, you have Alzheimer's. Memory really is all through your brain. That's all memory and thought is the synapse and the communication between neurons, between neural pathways. That's all it is. So it is unlimited, by the way. It's a myth that you only have so much storage capacity at any age. It's a myth that as you get older, your brain cannot learn and store new things. Get rid of that. And I take this to heart because I've researched it so much. That's one of the good news about new brain science discoveries that we have is we know the brain is plastic and malleable, and we have that unlimited capacity at whatever age. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the science behind this thing called neurobics, because I always like to explain how it works under the cranium, okay? So the brain has these nifty little molecules that float around. They're called neurotrophins. And neurotrophins or neurotrophic factor exist in other parts of the body. In the brain, they're called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. And they act as kind of a brain nutrient. You want to have neurotrophic factor in abundance in your brain. It helps to prime the brain for learning. It helps you to retain and learn new information today. And there are ways, including neurobics, to produce more neurotrophins. And one of the ways is the neurobics that we're going to do. Another very, very good way to produce neurotrophins, by the way, is exercise. So just throw that one out there. What you want to do, according to Dr. Katz, is if you practice neurobics, you need to get your brain stimulated and hopefully involve the senses, and you want to involve your brain in novel ways. In other words, you want to get your brain out of its rut. The brain wants to have novelty. Now, you may not like that. You and I are comfortable with what we know, right? We already went to school. We're experts in whatever. Don't tell me I've got to learn this new thing or this new program on my computer. I already learned it the other way. Thank you very much. We get comfortable with the very things that we do every single day on automatic pilot. The way we drive to work. The sequence of things we do in the morning. I see some of you nodding your heads. But to exercise the brain, you've got to get outside of that and use the senses. And you can do these things in everyday life. So, before I get to the neurobics, I do want to tell you that I think brain health is not just one thing. In other words, if you do some sort of exercise for your brain, whatever it might be, this or something else. It really is a compendium of things. It's not just one area, one thing, one magic diet, one magic exercise. It's a lot of things, just like your physical health, right? So one thing that is on the list is, of course, physical exercise. Physical exercise has been shown to reduce your risk of dementia by half, right off the bat. No prescriptions needed. And there is a lot of research, good, consistent evidence with regard to exercise. Now, mind you, the studies that are available to us with things like exercise and mental exercise are our smaller scale studies. They're not the large double-blind placebo-controlled studies that cost millions and millions of dollars, but there are many, many studies. And so I want you to think of me as kind of your tour guide to what we think to be true, what the most known evidence is. Socialization. Those of us who work in Alzheimer's care, and I would suspect in mental health care, know that socialization is huge for the brain. It's almost uncanny. At our ALS-care facilities, for example, we don't have our residents in their rooms at all day long, unless they need a nap or they're very sick. They are out with other people, engaging to their level with others. In neuroscience, there's something called the default mode network, and it defaults to what we're kind of, our brain is meandering about when we're not really focused, thinking something purposefully. And most of that is social. We're thinking about other people. We're making up stories about other people if we have to. That's where our mind goes. I think that we are wired, if you look through the lens of evolution, we're wired to be social. Even someone very progressed with dementia, who's in one of my facilities, and she cannot talk to me, she doesn't know where she is, she doesn't know who she is, she can barely speak. If I approach her, and I give her eye contact, and I get on her level, and squeeze her hand, she'll squeeze it back, won't she? She'll try to respond to you. People try to seek that human connection. And study after study shows us that people who have relationships, whether it be with family or friends or colleagues or church or what have you, is best for both their brains and their physical health. So that isolated person that's sitting alone in a room, even home, and parked in front of a big high-def TV, that's the worst thing you can do for somebody with dementia, socially. Diet. A lot of people ask about diet. Is there a brain diet? Well, there kind of is, and I have a whole talk on nutrition, but let me just sum up a couple of simple things that you can take for take-home. As far as the brain is concerned, your friends are lean meats, especially, or lean proteins, I should say, especially fish, because fish contains the omega-3 fatty acids, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and very, very low, and fats are okay, fats are not the culprit. The enemy in brain health is not, in fact, having the steak with a little bit of cooked in some butter or whatever. It's not fats, it's not red meat. It's a simple carbohydrate. It's refined carbohydrates. It's sodas that contain high fructose corn syrup and so on. The reason being, underlying all of this, is that there is a strong relationship between Alzheimer's and dementia. And I just read a new study, it's maybe 2 weeks old, about people's dietary habits. And if they have a higher intake of simple, refined sweets and so on, they have a much higher risk of dementia. We don't really know exactly why, but it seems to have something to do with spiking the glucose levels and developing insulin resistance. So that's a short lesson on diet. Okay, and then finally, mental exercise. So we're going to talk about neurobics. But first, there's some rules. First of all, we want to optimally involve one or more of the senses when you're practicing neurobics. And sometimes you do that by blunting a sense, even though it might seem kind of silly. For example, how many of you think that this morning, now I know you had to really get up early and get to the conference today, but do you think you could have gotten dressed, including finding your socks and shoes, and putting everything on with your eyes closed? Well, you could have done it. I mean, if you had to, you could have done it. You fumble around in the dark, and you're feeling for your clothes, and it might have been kind of hard getting a pair of socks that match, but you probably could have gotten dressed, at least passively dressed, and gotten out the door. Now, what sense, if you had closed your eyes, what sense would have been heightened during that activity? Touch, exactly, your tactile sense. This is why blind people have, when the area of the brain that's associated with touch just lights up, it's bigger. You train that sense, don't you? Whoops. Another idea for neurobics, you need to capture your attention, and sometimes it's in very surprising ways. For example, let's say that you have a picture of your family on your desk or on your dresser or wherever, and then one day you come in and you turn that picture upside down and you look at it. Well, that seems kind of silly, doesn't it? But what happens then? Well, automatically your brain has to think about, oh, okay, I recognize those people, I think, and your brain has to do a lot of work in the occipital region of your brain where visual processing takes place, in the frontal lobes where all of your logic takes place, and so on. You've immediately engaged other parts of your brain just by flipping that picture upside down. Another example, have you ever taken a small child when your child was little, or a grandchild with you, to your place of work or to wherever you volunteer so that your daughter can see what mommy does all day? Take your daughter to work day. Well, when you do, if you do that kind of thing, then all day long you have to explain in a child's terms what you're doing. So you have to totally reframe your language. So you want to capture in novel ways things that you do and kind of reframe them. Again, you're using different parts of your brain. Another idea, or another rule of neurobics, you want to make it purposeful if you can. Everybody had to get here today. Everybody's got to drive to work. Well, what if you kind of decided to get up and go a different way instead of that way that you like, that I'm comfortable with this way, I don't have to think about it. I don't know how I got here today, the car just took me, right? Did I close the garage door? I don't know. It's this kind of automatic pilot. You need to wake your brain up a little bit. You ever been in a new town? I was doing this today as I was driving through the fog, and I don't have a GPS in my car. I've got a map, and I knew that it was on Ben Wilson. And you're looking and I'm playing, I've got to have my rock and roll, so I'm playing my music, and I'm getting close to the sign. And what do you do with the music when you're looking for something? You turn it down. You're thinking, that's bothering me right now. I can't see if I'm listening to this. So you have to focus. Similarly, if you take a different way, even a little bit, you've got different scenery to look at, for one thing, and it's not that hard. Going grocery store shopping. I don't know, is there any other store besides HEB in Victoria? Walmart. There's Walmart. Okay, do y'all have a farmer's market? Yeah. Sometimes? Kind of sort of. Well, okay, let's say that you go to HEB or Walmart, and instead of starting in the produce, you start in the dairy section. Again, it's a purposeful activity, but it's a little different, and it makes your brain engage more. All right, so now we're going to do some neurobics exercises. So everybody's got something to write on and something to write with, I'm guessing. If you don't, grab a pen and just whatever piece of paper. This isn't hard.
Pens are in your bag.
Pens are in the bag. They're in the goodie bag. If you are right-handed, now put your pen in your left hand. If you're left-handed, put your pen in your right hand. And now write your name, first and last name, in cursive. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. All right, how's that going? Can you read your name?
Yes, but I feel like I'm ready for recess.
It's harder than it seems, isn't it? First of all, you have to figure out, well, how am I going to hold a pen? how am I going to make the letters go? Do I go up or down? You really have to think about it. And then your signature looks so shaky. It's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? All right, so here's a tip. If you want to engage your brain a little bit, you're sitting in a really boring meeting, it's late in the day, your mind's kind of wandering, just kind of switch your pen to the other hand, nobody will notice, and try to write a sentence or a paragraph. Okay, here's example number 2, and for this one, I need a volunteer. I need someone who loves to eat, and that's the whole room. And then I need someone who is not allergic to any foods. For $1 million, come on down. They're pointing to this guy he's not making eye contact with me. You can do it. All right. Oh, another volunteer. Okay, well, Kim will do it. Kim will do it. Oh, I'm sorry. Kathy. Kim's back there. Okay. All right, and you gotta take your glasses off. All right, no cheating. All right, so what I'm going to do with Kathy is I'm going to blindfold her, and then I'm going to feed her unidentified bits of food. Sounds horrible, doesn't it? And she's going to guess what she's eating. Okay, you ready? All right. She can't see. All right. Now, Kathy, I'm going to give you a food, and it's on a toothpick, so it's all sanitary. And I picked these things out especially for you.
Make sure they're dead first.
They are dead. There's not roadkill. Okay, ready? And open your mouth. And what do you guess that it is? It's things that are good. It's a little green thing. Okay. It's a round green fruit. That might be a grape then. No? Okay. 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 Very good. Okay, let's try another one. You ready? You're taking a long time on that grape. Or that kiwi. That kiwi, whatever it was. Okay, ready? Here we go. That was cute. And what was the first thing? Okay. All right, you ready? You're doing great. All right, let's do another one. You are a slow eater. All right, ready? Here we go. Kathy takes her time with her food. Okay, okay. Well, let's do, you want to do one more? Okay, one more. She said she guessed it was a fig. Well, we'll tell you at the end. Wait for it. Okay, all right, very good. All right, you did actually better than most people. Usually, and can we have a round of applause? Get your glasses. The first one was a red grape. The second one was a kiwi. You must really like kiwis. The third one that you thought was a fig was a prune, a piece of prune. And the last one that you thought was honeydew was actually watermelon. And to make it harder, I cut them in little bitty pieces so you can't roll it around in your mouth and feel the texture. But try this. Now, I've had sometimes people come up and they don't get a single one, or they get maybe 1 out of 4. It's kind of hard to do when you can't see what you're eating. And again, I used fruit so that she couldn't really smell it either. But you have to rely entirely on your sense of taste. Okay, so very good, Kathy. And this is something a lot of fun to do on your own with somebody that you trust. All right, now I need another volunteer. This does not involve eating. However, it does involve the blindfold. Matt, you're just going to have to get up here, buddy. Okay. Matt. Thank you, Matt, for being such a willing volunteer.
He loves this. Okay. Okay. So.
You didn't really tell us what we're doing first.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Hang on now. Okay, what we're going to do, Matt.
Should I turn my X-ray vision on?
No, you shouldn't do that. But if you did, that would be pretty cool. Matt wanted to know if he could turn his X-ray vision on.
Blue.
What I'm going to do for Matt is I'm going to hand him some objects, and you can use both hands, and then you tell me what they are by feeling them, okay? All right, so warm up your hands. All right, here's the first thing.
Matchbox?
Okay, very good.
Is that what it is?
I'm not saying. Okay, second thing.
Wait, look at this. See this right here?
No eating. Ooh, good one.
We'll figure it out because of this little thingy right here.
That's called a wig. All right, here we go.
Oh, that's easy.
That's a big one.
Oh, that one's easy.
You know, I didn't
That
read
one's
the book
easy.
that you were showing everybody. I read it already.
Oh, okay, he prepared, okay. All right, here comes something else.
That's disgusting. The only reason I know what this is because I had to do that with the orthodontist. Shove that clay up in your mouth. That's the only reason why.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wow, all right. Well, let's see if we can stump him. You know, he's getting pretty annoying here. So let's bring him the big kahuna. What's it feel like?
It feels like a leg. It feels like there's a toe. Is that a toe?
You want to see what you're holding? Matt, let's give Matt a hand. You did so well. Absolutely, yes, all of them. I've had people on the doll leg that, I have had people that say, oh, it's a doll leg. Of course, you know, here I have this big burly guy that probably is not something that resonates with you. I had one lady that said, it's a vase with a foot on it. Oh, okay. Let's see, what else can we do? Another way that you can practice neurobics is you can simply do something, try to learn something, however briefly, that is totally unfamiliar to you, totally foreign to you. An example might be even reading a couple paragraphs of something that you've never studied before in your life and you have no prior history of ever learning it. And then trying to explain to someone else what it was that you just read. Another excellent way to engage the brain is to practice learning a few phrases or more of a foreign language. Now, does anybody in here speak Japanese? Oh, good. So we're going to all learn some Japanese today. All right, you ready? All right, so when you go to Japan and you get off the airplane and you meet a Japanese dignitary, you want to introduce yourself, and here's how you say it. You say, Watashi wa Meredith, or your name. Ready? Watashi wa Okay, very good. Wa ti shi wa. And then you make your little bow. And in Japan, you know, they do the formal bow. And I learned that you don't stick your bum out. You have to bend from the waist and do this proper bow. So you say wa ti shi wa, Meredith. And then you want to say, I'm very pleased to make your acquaintance. So you say, dozo yoroshiku. Ready? Dozo yoroshiku. Okay, let's put it all together. Watashi wa. Dozo yoroshiku. One more time, I'm not going to cue you as much. Watashi wa. Dozo yor. Okay. Now, if you, you know, when you practice a foreign language, and that was just a couple of phrases, you have to wrap your brain around this whole thing that you've never heard. It's just like stringing a bunch of random syllables together. And even learning a couple of phrases like that, it is quite tiring, or quite, it makes your brain work. If in fact you want to hang on to those two phrases, you've got to say them over and over all day long. Watashi wa, watashi wa, watashi, dozo yoshi. You know, and otherwise you'll walk out of here in 10 minutes and you won't remember them at all. So again, a very interesting and a very easy way just to learn a couple of new phrases. There we go. Now, some examples from the book. And the book is full of things, again, very easy to do, simple to incorporate. Again, using foods. Maybe if you held your nose while you're tasting food. Anybody ever had a bad cold and trying to eat dinner? It's very different kind of sensation. Switching your seats at dinner time or at your meeting where you usually sit over here, you're going to sit over here. Switching seats in church. I know, try it. You might make some people very angry. Changing your route at the grocery store. Learning sign language or maybe Braille. And then the last one, at your desk, moving your stapler over here, moving your telephone over the other side of the desk, and then move your trash can over here. And all day long, you're throwing pieces of paper and there's little wads of paper in the corner. That's something that, again, try it. It sounds very, very simple, but it's something very easy to do and makes you think. Going inside Starbucks and having an interaction with the clerk and smelling the coffee and parking the car instead of going through the drive-thru. Opening your windows when it's a beautiful fall day and smelling the air. Starting the car with your eyes closed is a very sort of a visceral type of activity, and trying to get the key inside the keyhole. Reading aloud, which engages your visual brain, your imagination. Changing the station on your radio. Oh. Okay, now I'm going to go into a little bit about left and right brain thinking and left and right brain training. You know, we have these generalizations about being more left-brained or right-brained. Well, the good news, and there is some truth to it, the good news is as we get older, we are better at using both sides of our brains. We can switch back and forth very readily. But there are certain activities that are assigned or associated with right and left brain. The left brain is involved with more logic, more words, more detail, can't see the trees for the forest, or can't see the forest for the trees, I should say, type of people. Very organized, logical type of thinking. Right brain, more spatial, more big picture. These people like shapes and music and art and that kind of thing. So just very big generalizations. So if you want to cross-train your brain, because most people will say, well, I'm more left-brained or I'm more right-brained. You want to do things to engage the opposite side. So some ideas for the left side might involve doing word puzzles, crossword puzzles, number puzzles, writing activities, and so on. So let's do one now. Let's do a left brain activity. I've got 5 letters up on the screen. A-E-L-S-K. Make as many words as you can using those 5 letters and without repeating the letters. I'll give you 20 seconds. Again, you're just going to use these 5 letters. So like one word would be ask. And use at least 3 of them. Make as many as you can. Ready and go. 5 more seconds. Oh, she's good. I'd like to read. Okay, and stop. How many people had at least 6 words? 7. 8. Nobody? Oh, okay, you did. Okay, good. So probably I'm guessing for you that you enjoy reading a lot, you're good with language, you're good with words. For some people this is quite a struggle. Again, it's something easy to do. You can use any combination of letters that you want. Let's talk about something for the right brain then. What would you do to train the other side of the brain? Well, these might involve things such as puzzles, Rubik's Cubes, finding the word that's hidden in the picture, that kind of thing, and maybe making things with your hands. People who are more right-brained are maybe a little more trained in kind of visual spatial activities. So, whoops. I'm going to give you a picture now, and there is a word contained within it. And when you see the word, shout it out. Very good. Everybody see it? Yeah. Life. Okay, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. For some people, this is extremely easy, even with more complicated pictures. Now, I have another activity. I'm going to have to trust you not to look at your handout for this one. I'm going to show you some shapes. I'm going to show you some shapes, and you need to put your pen down and just look at the screen. Study the shapes for a few seconds. I'm going to take them away, and then your job is to recreate the shapes as you see them. So study them. There's 6 of them there. Commit that to memory. All right, now just draw the shapes that you just saw without using your cheat sheet, preferably. How you doing? Okay, I'm going to put them back up. How'd you do? How many people missed the light blue one? The one that is probably the one that's most frequently missed. It's a different color. This is something that's really hard for me. I'm very, very left brain. So this is a wonderful kind of memory puzzle teaser, and you can see you don't need any special software to do this. You don't need to find anything special. You just need some random shapes. I'm going to teach you a few more techniques now that have to do with helping you to remember stuff. Things like your to-do list and so on. And I have a whole class on memory techniques, but this is just to kind of whet your appetite for that. This is a common technique called chunking. And chunking involves assigning different words into categories that are more meaningful. So for example, if I gave you this list, basketball, a letter, grapefruit, book, quarter, and newspaper, what are 2 categories that you see right off the bat that you could assign these words into? Reading material and things that are around. Okay, very good. And you can see that if you group them in that order, well, they're much easier to remember, right? So you can use chunking in your own list. I use mine where you've got 50 random kind of things that you've got to do for the day. You want to prioritize those, but assign them in categories and then tackle each category at a time. You will find that you remember it much easier if you just take the time to organize your list. I'm now going to show you 3 workouts, 3 quick workouts that give your brain a little exercise that you can do, say, first thing in the morning before you leave for work. And all you need is a deck of cards and a phone book. Where's my cards? There's the phone book. Here they are. Okay, so the first one's going to be an exercise in working memory, trying to increase the amount of things that you can carry in your head for short term. So in the morning, you're going to take your deck of cards, and shuffle them. You're not going to drop them like I did. And you're going to pick, say, 2 cards. So I always feel like a magician when I do that. And you can tell me what they are. I don't have to go. No, not that one. Okay. All right, so she's picked a 2 of diamonds and a 10 of diamonds. All right, so your job all day long is just to remember 2 and 10. If you want to make it more complicated, maybe you remember the suit. 2 and 10. And so you leave and you go to work. At lunchtime you go, what were the 2 cards? 2 and 10. In the afternoon break, you think, what were the 2 cards? 2 and 10. Dinner time, you think, what were the 2 cards? 2 and 10. That's easy, right? Next morning, you pick 3 cards. And you remember those all day. The next morning, that's easy. You pick 4 cards, and so on. Most people start to have trouble after about 5 or 6 cards. And what you're doing is you're working on expanding that temporary storage, that short-term memory. Another idea for a daily workout is to take a phone book and your deck of cards. How many of you all have trouble with remembering names? Oh, yeah. All right, so you're going to pick a card. So I'll just pick one randomly. And I've got the 8 of spades. And then I'm going to, and they still make phone books. Sometimes they throw them on your porch. Well, now you have something to do with it. And you randomly pick a name. And I've got Charles McGill here. So my job today is to remember the first name, Charles, and to remember the suit, the spades. And so maybe I'm forming a visual memory of a guy I know named Charles, and he's holding a spade in his hand. And so all day I'm remembering that image. What was the person I'm remembering? Charles with the spade. That's too easy. Next day, you can take the first and the last name, and you build from there. That's too easy. You remember the number and the suit and the first and the last name. Or you go to 2 people. So there are many things that you can do to engage the brain that are very simple, and they don't require a lot of money or fancy software, anything like that. Here's another left side workout. Try to find there's a cluster of words here. There's a familiar phrase hidden in the word cluster. What is it? More often than not. Very good. Very good. Sometimes I have whole groups and they just stare at that, and I thought, maybe nobody uses this expression. What about this one? Pennies from heaven. Very good. Okay, we've done all that one. I'm going to teach you one more trick now. This is called the Loki method, and this is a trick that memory champions learn or utilize when they compete in these big memory competitions. And what you do is you want to remember or visualize rooms in your house or a house that you're familiar with. It could be your parents' house, it could be the house that you live in now, and so on. And you assign the things that you want to remember in each of the rooms. So here's what we need to remember today. And just kind of get your location in your head. Think of your house. Okay, you with me? And it's bananas, cottage cheese, bottled water, peanut butter, and light bulbs. So here's my memory little trick that I'm going to use to remember these things. I'm pulling up to my house. I get out of my car. I get onto my sidewalk. Oops, there's a banana. I slip on the banana peel. There's my bananas. Now I'm going up to my front porch. On my front porch, there is a large vat. It's the size of a small swimming pool. And it's filled with cottage cheese. And what's in the middle of the cottage cheese? Well, there's a person in there. And you can put, this is a good part, you can put anybody you want in that cottage cheese. So I have George Clooney in my cottage cheese, and George is waving at me. Now I go into my house, and on my sofa in my living room, there are several bottles of water, and they're all glistening and dewy, and they're all talking to each other, kind of dancing around. And now I proceed into my kitchen. I go to my kitchen sink, and my kitchen sink is filled with peanut butter. Ooey gooey peanut butter, and it's up to my elbows. And what's dangling over the sink? A bare light bulb. So there's your images. Okay, now what were the items? Banana, cottage cheese, bottled water, peanut butter, and the light bulb. Very good. Okay, we did chunking. Let's see. I want to give you the references. I think my time is about out. I've drawn from Dr. Katz's book and also from a book that's the bulk of my other presentation on memory called Brain Fit by Corinne Getteman. If you have any questions or if you're interested in any presentations along these lines, I hope you enjoyed it and maybe learned something and had some fun today. But please come see me. I'll be over at the Allscare booth for most of the day. And I thought I want to leave you with a poem that I discovered that kind of expresses how I feel about brain health. You know, we pay attention to a lot of things, how we look and maybe our physical health and all of this. Well, what would have higher priority in your life than to take your cognition with you for the rest of your years? For crying out loud, you know, don't you want to go full tilt and die with your boots on? Well, I sure do. And I like this poem. It's by Mary Oliver, and she says, "When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was a bridegroom taking the world in my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I've made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up by simply having visited this world." And thank you for your kind attention.